Hi there, my name is Ron Rogers, and this presentation is titled, Please Don't Execute the Students We Wash Out, and other bits and pieces. I'm going to tell you generally about a number of different foreign students groups that we had, and I'm going to show you some pictures of foreign pilots. These are stock pictures. None of these are actual pictures of the people at the time, but we had a very unfortunate incident. I don't know for absolute fact if it's true, but this is what came back, and so I'm going to relate the story as I'm familiar with it. Now, I was an instructor in the Air Force back at Vance Air Force Base in the mid 70s, and they kept me there as an instructor. So, at about close to 1975, I was in sea flight as an instructor in the T 37. Now, the T 37 is your introduction into military flight training at the time in the Air Force back in 1975. And we had a number of foreign students, and some of them were Nigerians. And we had them in the class. Now, at the time, I was a new flight instructor, so they make it easy on the new flight instructors. They give you the guys that they think are the best students. And sometimes foreign students, of course, with language, culture difficulties, they can be more difficult and more of a challenge. So they give them to the more senior instructors. But we had, in the squadron, we had a Nigerian pilot, and we were told that there had been a attempted unification of the country, and they were bringing people from all parts of the country and bringing them together, and in an effort to kind of unify the military, they were sending these guys to pilot training. Now, the interesting thing is some of these guys had literally and factually not operated anything more complicated than a bicycle. No cars, no machinery, nothing. Riding a bicycle was as skilled set as they had acquired back in their home country, and they're sent to the U.S. now to learn how to fly military aircraft. And the T-37, T-38 also, they are not simple aircraft. They are complex. There's a lot of stress in training. There's a lot to learn. There's a lot to do. And the training itself can be very stressful. And a number of these guys, especially the ones who did not have the technical or mechanical background, had trouble flying. We had a experienced A-1 Sandy from Vietnam, instructor pilot in our flight. He had flown Sandys in Vietnam, and he came back and he was given an assignment as an instructor in our flight. I think he later became a flight commander of that, but they always start him out kind of just working with a few students before they move him up. And somebody who was a captain was a little higher ranking, and that was typically the guys who would had a flight. But at the time, he was teaching a Nigerian student, and not the one that the story being executed about. But what happened was the guy was having difficulty, and basically Captain Bazine said he would lose control of the aircraft from level flight. I mean, he would enter a high-speed dive from level flight. And Captain Bazine was there one time going, and the whole flight went quiet. He says, when you pull the stick back, the houses get smaller. When you push it forward, they get bigger. And we're going, okay, this is the level of understanding. And what had happened was, we later found out that one of the students that they had, you just can't make it, fella. They washed him out of the program, and he went back to Nigeria. And because he had embarrassed the country, supposedly the story goes, he was executed. And that kind of got our attention because it's one thing to wash out of a program. It's another thing to actually be executed. So the policy came down that these guys would not go solo in any of our aircraft, not the T-37, not the T-38. We figured they were just too dangerous. We didn't want to have the airplanes, crash into the countryside and the liability that would entail, and we didn't want to wash them out. So the only way to get them through the program was basically they were dual only. So they never got any solo portion of the aircraft. We figured, we'll get them through the program. We won't send them back to be executed, and we'll let them graduate, but we're never going to let them go solo. And if you go back and you crash, okay, that's on your own. At least we're giving you a chance to live, and we're not going to send you back to be executed for, embarrassing your country. And of course, we graduated a number of Nigerian students who successfully became pilots and went back. There were only a few, and really it was guys being placed in a not good situation who just didn't have the background to learn to fly complicated vehicles. We also had Saudi students, and they could be very interesting. We would often have very high-ranking, wealthy students. Now they tried to keep it kind of quiet, and they were told, don't bring the fact that you're a prince or anything like this into the situation. But when I was a student, we had a Saudi pilot who liked his instructor a lot. And he wanted to buy his instructor a car just kind of as a little gift. And the instructor says, "No, you can't do that. I can't accept gifts, gratuities like that." So the poor instructor never got his car, but the Saudi student was more than willing to just provide him with a very nice car. Now, one thing about the T-38, I don't know that it was much issue in the T-37, but we had some Vietnamese students that came through training. Now, this was actually before my time. I never experienced any Vietnamese students at the time, but I was told the story. And I was told that they became very excellent A-37 pilots over there, but the Vietnamese pilots were typically a little more short of stature than the American pilots. And of course, on the left is the standard military combat boot. On the right is a boot that kind of looks like it, but has extensions. I don't have any pictures of these, but basically, people would talk about there were students walking around that had extensions on the boot that would go almost 10 inches at time. Part of the problem was the rudder pedals on the T-38 were adjustable, but they weren't adjustable enough, and these people were short enough that they couldn't put their feet on the rudders. And that, for the most part, you don't need a whole lot of rudder in the T-38, and it could get you more trouble than not. But the big thing is when you get on the runway and you put both engines up into full military power, 100%, check the engine instruments, and then release brakes and go, you need to be able to hold the brakes. And they started out trying to, the instructor would hold the brakes for them. They decided, no, that's just not going to work because your guy can't ever go solo. So they did the boot extensions, and they were kind of interesting, I was told, to see these guys walking around with exceedingly high heels. But they got through the program, and then they went on, and I had that picture with the A-37, so obviously it wasn't a problem on that aircraft. We must have had more adjustment. But anyway, that's the tale of some of the groups of foreign students that we had. The Nigerians, of course, were the most challenging because they put a number of the people in just bad situations, put them in way over their head. It was unfair to them. And like I said, we weren't going to send them back to be executed. That wasn't going to happen again. And I talked about the Norwegian students. They're kind of a special group in a previous video. Anyway, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it and found it interesting and informative.